Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. So want to go ahead and do a little bit of a follow-up to a game and a story and a narrative and a coach that we talked about quite a bit over the weekend here on the Aaron Torres Pod and Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. The game, South Carolina and Kentucky. The result, a shocker as South Carolina destroys the Kentucky Wildcats, and really just kind of the state of where things are with Mark Stoops. And so why I want to do it is pretty simple. So if you pay attention to the channel, you know that we did kind of an immediate reaction right after the game on Saturday night. And then we followed it up by talking about it a little bit on the Sunday live stream. But I will also be transparent. I'm not a Kentucky fan, whatever. But I think I have a pretty good feel for Kentucky fans, for the fan base. Again, I'm not a fan, not telling you how people should feel, whatever. But at the same time, I think I was even a little bit surprised as somebody who pays attention to this. It's my job to pay attention to this. Even I was a little bit surprised by, I think, just how frustrated a lot of Kentucky fans have come to be with the Mark Stoops era, especially of late, some disappointing results, etc. And so I bring it up because I want to do a little bit of a follow-up here on a Monday as Kentucky starts to look forward to Georgia. And I want to talk about the state of things. And just bluntly, if 1 year after Mark Stoops nearly left for Texas A&M, if maybe that would have been best for everybody, and if, more importantly, as we head to the offseason, should Mark Stoops maybe be looking for another opportunity, and would it be best for everybody? Mark Stoops, the fan base, the program, if maybe these two sides split ways after the season. And so let's get into it. And before we get into some details, let's make two things abundantly clear, okay? The first thing, and I think everybody listening knows this, I'm not saying this is not a Mark Stoops hot seat video, okay? I understand things are bad. I understand people are frustrated, but I am not dumb enough to pretend that Mark Stoops is on some sort of hot seat. Bottom line is he gets paid a lot of money. He's got a lot of guaranteed money, long-term contract. He could go 1-11 this year, lose his last 11 games, lose every game by 50. He isn't getting fired. That's just bottom line, end of story. This is not a hot seat video. So don't pretend it is. Don't get in the comments. Don't say, Torres, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm not saying he's on the hot seat. He is not. And I also should mention, by the way, that we have to acknowledge what I always acknowledge whenever I talk about Mark Stoops on this channel, which is that he is the best coach in football that Kentucky has ever had in my life. Now, I understand maybe some of you are old enough to remember the Bear Bryant days. Okay, whatever. I'm not. Most people listening are not. And so I just bring it up because he is and has been an incredible coach for Kentucky football. It was a very bad situation that he took over when he took over in whatever it was, 2010, 2009, whatever it was, Joker Phillips, okay? It was really bad. He elevated the program. I'll be honest, maybe even to a place that I'm not sure that I truly believed Kentucky could get to. If my math is correct, 8 straight bowl games. Now, that obviously includes the 2020 season where, because of COVID, you played an SEC-only schedule, so that was kind of a weird year. But the bottom line is 8 straight years with a bowl appearance is incredible for Kentucky. They have recruited at a higher level than I ever thought they could. And frankly, they've just built something more sustainable than I ever thought they could as well. So let's get that all out of the way. This is not a Mark Stoops has been terrible from the beginning, fire him now. He is not on the hot seat. He has not been terrible. But when I look at the state of things, the South Carolina game seemed to feel like a turning point for a couple reasons. First off, and South Carolina fans got mad at me for saying this on Saturday, South Carolina is not a good football team, okay? Listen, congrats to Shane Beamer. Congrats on the big win. This is not to tear down your program, but you are a program that probably could have and maybe should have lost to Old Dominion last week or in week 1. You are a program that went 5-7 a year ago. So this is not South Carolina. Oh my God, they're going to be the surprise team in the SEC. No, I think their ceiling is about 6-6. It's about a bowl game. And that's where the frustration with Kentucky fans has come in. This is your 3rd straight loss to South Carolina. And obviously Kentucky fans know this. I was kind of stunned when I saw this the Tom Hart tweet that he put out. Tom Hart, of course, works for SEC Network. He's covered a million Kentucky games in his day. He's been at Kroger Field. He knows that staff. He knows the team. Look at what he tweeted out, which is kind of an incredible stat. Tom Hart tweeted out, shocking stat of the day. Since the 2021 dismantling of LSU, Kentucky has now lost 8 of its last 10 SEC home games. That is right. Kentucky is now 2-8 in their last 10 SEC home games, dating back to beating LSU in 2021. That was a crazy game because I remember saying at the time that felt like Coach O's tarmac game, where he probably should have been left on the tarmac. He did ultimately get fired a week later. But I just bring it up because you win that game. It feels so good. You're 2-8 since, okay? And those 2 wins, by the way, against a Florida team that did not make a bowl game last year, and admittedly against a pretty good Mississippi State team in 2022. At the same time, you have taken some bad losses. That now includes 2 to South Carolina. And I think that's where, and again, Kentucky fans, I'm not speaking for you. Get in the comments. Tell me I'm dead wrong if this is the case here. But I think that's where the frustration comes in, because when I look at Mark Stoops and when I look at what he has built at Kentucky, I get the frustration because it feels like there was kind of always this unwritten, unspoken understanding of what Kentucky would be under Mark Stoops, okay? We understand that there are some limitations historically, whatever. That probably means that Kentucky will never truly be a Georgia, an LSU, an Alabama, whatever. By the way, there's like 128 of 133 FBS teams that can say the same. That's not a knock on Kentucky at all. But with Mark Stoops, the understanding was also always the opposite. It was, okay, yeah, we're probably not quite on Georgia's level, but we are always going to take care of the teams that we are supposed to beat, especially early in the year. Less injuries, come out folk, whatever. And it's interesting because I looked it up and I put out this stat on social media the other day. But to Mark Stoops' credit, Kentucky is actually 14. They were 14-0 in their last 14 SEC games last 14 September games, last weekend. And so I bring it up because I know that a lot of people will say, oh, they never, whatever. Bottom line is they have always started the year strong. Now, again, a lot of it is out of conference play. But listen, they've beaten Florida a few times in September. They've beaten a couple other SEC teams. So you've always started the year strong. But I think more importantly, you've taken care of the teams that you're supposed to. You beat the Vanderbilts. You beat South Carolina when they're not very good, which you did consistently for about a 6-7 year stretch. You beat Florida when they're down like they are right now under Billy Napier. And so where a Kentucky fan is frustrated is like, okay, like, if it's not going to be pretty against certain programs, we got to beat the South Carolinas. We got to beat the Vanderbilts. And those are teams that it's been up and down. I know they beat Vandy last year, lost the year before, but the bottom line is those are the games that you are supposed to win. Those are the games that you didn't win. And that's where it gets really interesting for Kentucky going forward, because you look at this schedule. Listen, I know the SEC is tough with 16 teams, but it's hard to find guaranteed wins on this schedule in 2024. Vanderbilt, all of a sudden, we just checked them off as a win, and I still think Kentucky's beating them at home. But Vanderbilt just beat Virginia Tech a few weeks ago. Vanderbilt is sitting there at 2-0 right now. A lot of other teams can't say the same. Ole Miss is not looking good. Louisville is not looking good, even though that's a rivalry that Kentucky has owned. Obviously, you have Ole Miss. Obviously, you have Georgia this weekend. Obviously, you have Texas down the road. And so when I look at the big picture of this program, it just feels like Saturday was an inflection point. And I do wonder if maybe it is best for everybody to kind of just get a fresh start, for Mark Stoops to maybe start over somewhere else. Again, not saying he's fired, but we know he pursued that Texas A&M job. We know he wanted the Texas A&M job. Depending on who you speak to, he accepted the Texas A&M job last year before the chaos around that coaching search. But you look at it from Mark Stoops' perspective. Listen, he has been incredible. He probably does deserve a statue outside of Kroger Field, but that's down the road. And right now he isn't delivering at the level that he once did when he started on this job. So for him, it's probably just great to get a fresh start. Go somewhere else. Go where you're appreciated. Go where you're, whatever. I don't want to say wanted, because I know a lot of Kentucky fans still want him. But then also from the Kentucky perspective, it's a new era, it's a new world. Stoops hasn't really embraced NIL. And you just wonder if maybe a fresh voice is what's best. Obviously, I know the name that every Kentucky fan wants. It's obviously John Summerall. And by the way, I think you could get John Summerall. Obviously, because he coaches at Tulane, I don't think anybody really knows the status of his contract. Because again, it's a private school. You just don't know. But this was a guy that had back-to-back 11-plus win seasons in 2 years at Troy. He obviously coached at Kentucky under Mark Stoops. He was a GA at Kentucky many, many, many years ago, and of course played at Kentucky as well. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but it just feels like again, I've made the point. We'll wrap this little clip here, but it just feels like this thing might have run its course. Not that Mark Stoops hasn't been great for Kentucky. Not that the fans haven't given him everything that he has asked for. And I think that's another part where I understand and I side with fans. Guys asked for more NIL money. Fans have stepped up. Needs facilities. Fans have stepped up. By the way, the administration had his back in a very public dispute with the former basketball head coach. And you know who I'm talking about. So I just bring it up. It's something that's on my mind. We'll see what happens. Obviously, you got Georgia this weekend. That's where the focus is. It's going to be a challenge. I know Kentucky fans are going to show out for that game, but it is something that I have just been thinking about. If you enjoyed this clip, do me a quick favor. Make sure that you are subscribed to the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. New clips, new videos going up every single day, people. Also, as you see, our Torres on UK account, we have a great young UK fan helping me run that account. Anytime I talk UK, I'm posting it there, but also for news, details, information about Kentucky basketball, Kentucky football, whatever. If you're on Twitter, make sure to follow at Torres on